Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. Today is Thursday, September 24th, and I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, joined by my partner in crime for podcast number 3, I think, today. I don't know. I've lost
Hard to keep track.
Yes, but it is Mr. Andrew Hanson. And how's it going this evening? How did your Bills finish up in the NBA?
They did well. Another solid night in the NBA for us. Our FanDuel GPP lineup cashed. It had Hero in there. You had to have him if you wanted to cash.
Definitely.
Tatum was the MVP over there on FanDuel. He came along there in the second half, woke up, and the core build on DraftKings worked as well. You know, I built my favorite lineup was as close to the takedown lineup from last slate when Miami and Boston played. You couldn't replicate it exactly because of the prices. So I had Gordon Hayward in for Marcus Smart and then filled it out with Hero and Cantor. And surprisingly, Cantor didn't play. That was strange, but that lineup still cashed pretty easily. So another good night for us in NBA.
It really was. It was an odd night. I mean, Tatum not putting a single point on the board in the first half and then going nuts in the second half. Then you had Cantor not playing, Kelly O not playing. Just an odd, set of circumstances. But the Heat are up 3-1. I know we're rooting for different sides on this one, so
right.
I was pretty fired up. I know it wasn't a good loss for the Celts, but hey, 3-1. Obviously, it's been proven in this bubble that there's no insurmountable lead at this point. So
especially with Bam looking pretty moving around pretty gingerly there at the end with that left shoulder. You hope that he's okay, so these guys can battle it out and the best team can win. But He looked like he may be injured.
Yeah, he was super favoring that. I was surprised they didn't take him out, to be honest with you. I mean, I know it was coming down to the wire, but, man, he was really hurting there. So we'll have to watch that closely because from a DFS perspective, obviously that will massively shuffle the deck, from there. All of a sudden, all of the folks that played Kelly O and are so furious tonight
right.
he'll be have to plug him in again by default. So we will see how that goes. But I also want to say, hey, we had another really nice baseball night. We followed up last night with just absolutely massacring the cash games and then trying to hold on for dear life in, we didn't have a lot of guys in the late games like zero, but, it just works out that way sometimes. So we were able to hold on in some GPPs and just barely missed it in some others. But overall, it was a great night. We got our golf lineups out. So if you didn't, catch those, you can check out the podcast for golf. It's on our YouTube channel. And, get ready for that tournament. It is I want to hear you pronounce it again just because I can't say it.
The Corrales, is that what it is? Corrales Punta Cana event.
Exactly. And I'm not going to say it because I refuse to get us barred from YouTube. So
good. Excellent.
All right. So we got to go to basketball, my man. But
yes.
I'll tell you what, before we do that, I want to thank our presenting sponsor. Do you know who that is? Here's your first quiz. Who's our presenting sponsor, Andrew?
BetUS.
BetUS.com.pa. You got to love them. They've been around over 25 years. Great payouts. I've been a member 13 years. We have our own line there with our own agent just for DFS Coach Talk players. So that, you can get on our site. My man Jensen takes care of us there. So feel free to jump in with BetUS and get 125% match on your first deposit by using the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, no space. All right, speaking of BetUS, I pulled up the live odds, and the game right now we have the LA Lakers -6, 214.5 over under. So similar theme on the line. We know the Lakers are up 2-1. Extremely important game in this series. Probably could be a deciding type game, especially if the Lakers win it. So the question is, now that they've priced the studs so high that you can't use multiple, studs, what is the strategy that you're looking at going in?
Well, it is a lot tougher on DraftKings. So let's just state quickly that on FanDuel, the pricing has been stable enough from the last game to this game where you can pretty much build the same lineup that you had. And you may not want to. I mean, if you anticipate a different game script, different guys stepping up, then obviously you're going to want to change it. But just to give you a sense, if you haven't looked at the pricing yet, that's the story on FanDuel. But over on DraftKings, it is a much different story. You could put a cheap guy as your captain on DraftKings and get all 4 studs in your lineup and be able to put another player in and make your lineup on the last slate. But you can't do that. All 4 studs have been priced up. Yeah. And it's basically forcing you to play some of the mid-tier guys. So it's a much different slate in terms of pricing, and it really throws everything sort of just out of whack, and you have to analyze the different scenarios. So if you use one of the studs as a captain, you're probably only going to use 2 studs total.
Yeah, you're handcuffed.
You're really handcuffed. If you go down to somebody like Rondo, then you can use 2 other studs as utility guys, but then your 3 other guys are cheap players. Right. So you have to go down to somebody like Jeremy Grant or even lower if you want to get 3 studs in there. So it's just it's tough. If you play multiple lineups, then I guess you'll like it because you're going to want to try the different combinations. But if you only play one lineup, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult to choose which way you want to go.
There's no question. And, it brings to light something we talk about with our members. In fact, we were just in Discord having a great conversation about this similar situation is, it really is. And I, in a nutshell, and, I want all of our listeners to hear this and know what we stand for at Coach Talk. It is more important to me on how you manage your bankroll, what contests you choose, and then which sites you use different strategies on to build those lineups like you just referred to now. You have to use a completely different strategy in this showdown NBA slate tomorrow on DraftKings compared to FanDuel based on the pricing. So, before you put a single player in your lineup, that's what I want everybody that listens to this podcast to know, and we preach it every day. You can't win at this just by playing the lotto and playing just a GPP wild shot and playing the same guys on every site, etc. I mean, that's the definition of a fish. And so we want to build sharks, and in doing that, you've got to look at those strategies like we're just saying. So the majority of the conversation Andrew and I had before we started the podcast this evening or this morning, I guess, is, what is the strategy going to be now that we have this different pricing? What are we going to look to play more so as far as 50-50s, building that bankroll? Because if you get carried away with trying to just get the big, gigantic win, there's no way to sustain a bankroll and to grow it. So I just wanted to say that again because we had a great group of members, some of the new members in there just asking those questions, and I'm so passionate about it. I mean, I really recommend that you go back and if you're watching us on YouTube right now, we have a great library of podcasts on there. We have a bankroll management. We have a contest selection, cash versus GPP, hybrid lineups, which we provide that are specifically based for 50-50s, heads up, 3 and 5 man and single entry, as opposed to the mass entry tournaments. All of that stuff is more important than us saying who's better in this matchup, Danny Green or, whomever. So I wanted to drive that home. And, that point of how we're going to build these different on DraftKings and FanDuel, it was a perfect segue to do that. So Wanted to make sure I mentioned that. So, couple things. I want to mention the injury report real quick here as we start breaking this down even further. I know your lock and load Dion Waiters is doubtful, so you may have to scratch him. I know that joke's getting old. I've told it like 10 times. But we have LeBron James probable, which is silly that's even mentioned. I'm not even going to waste time with it. The two, though, that I have interest in, Danny Green probable and Alex Caruso probable, but I don't know, man. Right now it says Alex Caruso has a sore wrist. He had a precautionary MRI done today, but he's expected to play. That doesn't give me the warm and fuzzy feeling. And then Danny Green hurt his ring finger on his left hand enough that, he's listed on the report, but it's not his shooting hand. I would assume he'll be okay. And then, of course, the biggest news is this is the second game in a row that we have an injury report without Mr. Anthony Davis, which, still a shock.
His psyche is probably injured after playing 43 minutes and grabbing 2 rebounds.
I don't know how that's possible. I don't know. I really believe if I played 43 minutes, I could have gotten 3 rebounds in that exact game. I would have dropped dead, but I would have had 3 rebounds on the board. I'm telling you right now. So, that, it's funny because we just had this discussion the other day. So that's why I'm really pissed about it is, I was touting him a bit, saying, I see an edge with him. He's playing harder, more consistent. And I just, with that performance there, not getting it done, them losing the way they did and him just not hitting the glass. And, I don't know. We did talk about and sort of predict that it might be a let-up game for the Lakers. And we were worried Denver would make have a chance to win this one. But that's just inexcusable. If you're a superstar, one of the best 2 or 3 players in the game, to have that kind of effort is just very surprising. Now, he's taken a lot of heat about it. The press has been on him pretty hard. So, I'm back in his corner. I don't know about you. I know there's people that are mad, but I still think he's fantastic. I still think he's a force to be reckoned with. And, I know I've been building my lineups with him in most Lakers games, but I just can't get away from him. I think he's got such a distinctive edge in this series, and I don't think Denver really has the personnel to guard him properly. So I don't know. I want to start my lineup with Davis. What do you think?
Well, I'm certainly going to be more on him this game than last game. I faded him primarily last game. I thought he would have a bit of a dip after that game-winning shot, and he certainly did. And I agree with you in terms of that he's got the talent and he can have the edge if he brings it. And I think he'll rebound after that performance. I think he'll play much better.
Oh, so rebound. I get it. See, pun.
Get that? Yeah. No pun intended. Yeah. So he's much more in play for me in this one. But again, it's going to just depend on, which site you are and how you're trying to fit your lineup in there. But I like AD. He's in the game for me. LeBron right there with him, and I'll probably lean.
Are you going to go for both of them?
Probably not. The lineups I built so far, I see one of them does have them both on DraftKings. It's a little bit tougher on FanDuel.
Right.
So it's just I'm going to have to keep playing around with it. Looking at the rest of the Lakers lineup, that's where I'm really kind of trying to sort things out. And it's interesting. There's a couple more guys in play for me here, especially if Caruso's out. I mean, we think he's going to play since he's listed as probable, but I mean, it is his right wrist, and he already shot poorly last game. And so he's the X factor to me because, if he's healthy, he could have a bounce back. He was out there for 25 minutes. Yeah. And he's a lot cheaper he's 3,000 less than Rondo. But if he's a little bit limited, then Rondo is going to have all the opportunity in the world, and he's a way that you can get a little bit more of a balanced lineup.
Yeah.
And then, Green and KCP, they're in play for me as well. So I'm just having a little bit of a hard time sorting through the Lakers side.
It's difficult.
What are your thoughts on the rest of the crew there?
I like Rondo a lot in this game, but he's $3,500 more on DraftKings as a captain, if we're talking captain. And so, I'm just trying to determine, because if I do go with Davis at 18.6, it makes you shuffle the deck a little bit when you're building out the roster. But it's hard to believe. I mean, when the playoffs started, Rondo was cheaper than Caruso. That's really comical. It goes to show you how much things have switched. It's so hard with these Lakers subs because there's just a wild inconsistency with the majority of them. I mean, you can examine this matchup all you want. We've got a good sample size now in 3 consecutive games, and so you sort of know what's what. But trying to decide between a Kuzma, a Green, a Pope, a Caruso, Dwight Howard even, or a JaVale McGee, or whatever you want to look to try to fill out the roster with any Lakers, man, it's really, as much as we're pros at this and we break it down, there's just somewhat of an element of luck with this aspect. And normally I don't say that because I believe that winning at DFS is 90% skill and 10% luck, but there are times like this when you just have a group of secondary players that are all so even that you're looking for some type of edge, and you can usually find that when it's a different opponent. But when you're looking at the same opponent 4 times in a row and the variance of these players is varied game by game, it's tough, man. It really is.
Yeah, you're right. If you look at Green, KCP, Caruso, and Kuzma, last game they all played between 20 and 26 minutes.
Yeah.
And they really do have a high variance. All 4
huge.
Of them.
Huge.
Green can go from 5 fantasy points to 30 because he can get steals and hit threes or do absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And Caruso is pretty similar. He's KCP. KCP is pretty similar. I mean, he relies a lot on the threes, but he's out there enough minutes where he can get a couple rebounds, a couple assists, maybe a steal. And then Caruso, he doesn't rely as much on the three-pointer, but he can have 3 steals or none. He could have a dozen points or 2. So you're right. It's very challenging. And I think because all of those guys are so similar in pricing, it's one of those situations where that's why you kind of need to decide on this slate. Am I going to try to build a bunch of lineups and try to get everybody involved? Or maybe you just want to play a little bit less on this slate, build one lineup, take a shot on one of the value plays that you have a feeling for, and that's it. Just let it go, because it's just the pricing on DraftKings, you know me, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to play more on DraftKings and build more lineups over there. But I don't know if it's worth it on this slate.
I agree with you. I mean, I know the listeners are probably like, hey, we're listening to you to give us the plays here. But, it's sometimes you just got to be dead honest. I mean, we're super passionate about our picks, certain days, and there are days where it's just tougher. I think this game, in this situation, with this pricing, it is a damn tough slate. So I'm going to do the same as you. I'm going to play a little less than I normally do. I play a little more on FanDuel and more cash, and you play more on DraftKings, more GPP. I mean, that's why we always make such a good pair, because we're looking at everything from a different lens. But, even on DraftKings, you have that tiered down 2 times 1.5 and 1.2 for the 3 top spots. But again, you're completely handcuffed here with James at 16.5, Davis 15.5, and Jokic 15. If you're going to try to play 2 of those guys, then you are dumpster diving again, back where we were just talking about it being a complete crapshoot. Look at Dwight Howard's one game compared to, the next game. So again, that variance of those mid-level Lakers specifically really makes me want to fade them because I can't stand, I want to eliminate as much variance as I can, but some of it you just can't. So I think the strategy for me is a little lighter on this card. I'm going to choose Davis over LeBron, and then I'm going to build out the rest of my team more so with Nuggets because I feel, and I'm excited to get your input on this, I feel like I have a little bit better idea of what the Nuggets are going to try to do and what their rotation is going to look like. Now, of course, there's going to be some variance, but I think we have sort of a better idea of where all of those shots are going to come from. So before we jump into the Nuggets, though, we want to take a super quick break here and listen to this wonderful message from our friends at betus.com.pa.
Wake up, sports bettors. Sports are in high gear at betus.com, so put down the beer and make every sporting event more exciting by putting stakes on the line at betus.com. Earn bragging rights over all your friends as you break in the cash from each week's betting action, but don't settle for any other book. Choose America's favorite sports book with over 25 trusted years in the industry, BetUS. BetUS has your game with action on football, baseball, basketball, MMA, golf, horse racing, and even esports. No other sportsbook is as welcoming to newcomers as BetUS with their jaw-dropping sign-up bonuses. Sign up today with promo code CoachTalk to enjoy a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000, the best in the biz. Create an account to start making bets against the spread, future bets, props bets, entertainment bets, live bets, and more. No other sportsbook in the industry is as committed to their users as BetUS. So sign up now and get in on the winning side of the ball. BetUS.com.
Awesome. All right. Don't miss out that 125%. It's a great time. We had some members that were jumping on the over in the game tonight, and we're celebrating in there with an easy win. So don't forget to use that promo code CoachTalk, all one word, no space. All right. The drama of what are we doing with the Nuggets? Sounds like we're both leaning a little bit more of building more Nuggets into this rotation for this slate. So what do you think?
Yeah, I do think the Nuggets picture is a little more clear because last game they really had an 8-man rotation. Plumlee only got a few minutes.
Right.
So they tightened the rotation. Guys got a few more minutes. Monte Morris played well, so P.J. Dozier didn't play. The only thing that's different, though, as we look to Game 4 is down the stretch, it looked to me like Denver was a little bit gassed. All across the board. So I do think there's a chance that Denver is going to adjust the rotations a little bit, and they may give Plumlee a couple more minutes. They may get Dozier into the game. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
The wild card with Denver is now Jeremy Grant because he's the volatile one over there. He went from some down games to all of a sudden looking great.
Huge game.
He's actually still reasonably priced, especially on DraftKings. He's only 5.6.
Yeah.
If he has another,
that's a total misprice there.
That's a misprice. He's more expensive on FanDuel comparatively, but he's
11.5 on FanDuel, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's the turning point for me again. As you look at the captain, okay, one more time. If you go down from the top, I think if you have a guy like Murray as your captain, you can get 2 other studs, and then you fill it out with cheap guys. If you go down to Rondo, you can get 3 studs and then 2 cheap guys. Yeah. Or if you then go to Jeremy Grant, you can get 3 studs and then 2 guys who are a little bit better. So you get a boost if you go down to Grant as your captain. So if you think he's going to have a similar game, then try him as your captain on DraftKings. Okay, a much different build. Or, okay, here's the one edge I'm going to try to give to our folks who play on DraftKings. If you're looking for a GPP lineup, the cheap guy to use, I think, on this game, on this slate, as your captain is actually Torrey Craig.
Okay? Wow. Okay,
here's why.
That's a hot take.
Here's why. if you put him in there, you can get 3 studs and 2 decent players. And if you look at his production recently, 15 minutes and 11 fantasy points. Now, do we really want a captain with 11 fantasy points? No. But Craig is the kind of guy who can get 20 fantasy points. If he's your captain for $2,000, and so as a captain he costs $3,000, and he gives you 20 fantasy points, so you get 30, and then you get the 3 studs and 2 decent players. Again, on a GPP, a riskier approach, that can work. So that's because there's so many different ways you can build it with the captain on DraftKings. That's why I'm just not quite as excited about the slate. But depending on what type of player you are, if you're a cash player, maybe go with Murray. If you're a GPP player, but you don't want to get too risky, go with Jeremy Grant. Or if you want to get really risky, put Craig as your captain, and then you can be more excited about how you can fill out the rest of your lineup.
Great theories. I mean, there's lots of different ways to build it out. I mean, for me, I want to try to stand by Anthony Davis as my captain and spend the big money. So I can make rosters work where I only have to play one, I'll call them undesirables, where you just have to hold your nose and put them in your lineup and then pray that they get some minutes. But for me on DraftKings per se, and then we'll switch to FanDuel because they're so different. If I put Davis in there, and the undesirable that I use is Dwight Howard, and I know it's not pretty, but I still think he gets some run in there because he is an irritant, to Jokic, and he's the best of the worst guys that I can see. This way, you can still build a lineup using some of the key players. I mean, I'm high on Rondo this game because of the slight injury to Caruso. Maybe he'll not be as effective or get a little less minutes. And it feels like a Rondo game. It feels like that to me. I think you have to play either Murray or the Joker. You can't pass on both of them. It's just impossible because the majority, of all the usage goes to those 2 guys. So you can play one of those 2 guys in the lineup and then finish out with a few guys that I think are safe. I mean, the one guy specifically is who you mentioned on DraftKings. I think he's 100% lock and load for me in all cash and GPPs. And that's Jeremy Grant at 5,600. It's not because he's coming off a game. You know me, I generally fade somebody coming off a big game because I think the suckers jump into it. But I don't think you're a sucker here. They're going to depend on him. He was the key to that win. They need him more defensively than offensively. That was all bonus for them. So he's going to get big minutes. I am convinced of that. So, I feel if you get that slight value play with Grant, you hold your nose on maybe a Dwight Howard. You could still put Davis as the captain and get either Murray or Joker in there and fill out your lineup like that. So it's not a perfect situation, but I do think you have to have some balance. If you try to go Murray and Joker and then fade Davis and LeBron or vice versa, it's not as conducive to a winning lineup, I don't think, because generally in a situation like that, you're looking for one side to dominate more so than the other side. And, I think we're going to get a competitive game here, and I think you're going to want to have some definite exposure to both sides.
Yeah. And I do want to mention one other value player, and that's Gary Harris, because his price has dipped down on DraftKings all the way to 4,200. He's more expensive on FanDuel at 10.5. It's too cheap for a guy who is playing that many minutes. 32 minutes last game, and he didn't do anything. He only had 11 fantasy points, but that's another guy who can go for 25 or 30 fantasy points and make a huge difference. You can't be super picky when you're trying to make the salaries work. So you can't. Yeah. So you'll take 32 minutes from an athletic guy who can get steals and hit threes.
Yeah, all day long. Yeah. No doubt. I mean, I don't like him as a player offensively. I think he's a great defender. But like you said, I know it's overstated, but sometimes money do equal minutes when you're scrapping to get enough guys on the floor that are going to get those minutes. And with this pricing, man, they really make it super tough. So let's touch on FanDuel a little bit, since we're talking about such a different build because of the pricing. The biggest difference for me there is some of those mid-price guys that I like, they're not in play to me, because you've got all of a sudden here, the fifth most expensive guy on this slate is Jeremy Grant on FanDuel. Is that unbelievable? Right. He's now 11.5, followed right behind by Gary Harris at 10.5 and Rondo at 10. So there's three guys that we talked a lot about, building on DraftKings. But man, you're in big trouble if you want to use a couple of those guys, because you've got James Davis, the Joker, and Murray all super high priced here. So, man, the step down, the 1.5, 1.2, you got to find a way to get three guys in there, and then certainly hold your nose on the two utility. I think you got to really take two reaches. And again, this is way outside of my normal strategy, but I think you got to go down and just really take a shot with two guys, whether it be, I'm embarrassed to say this, but whether it be like a Mason Plumlee, Torrey Craig, KCP, you can gamble with some of those guys and hope they have a 20-point DFS night, and it allows you to get those three good players in the three tier down points. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. It really, really is. But, if you want to go with, like, if I'm going to go somewhat similar to what I did on DraftKings and try to take a Davis and maybe a Murray, those middle guys I mentioned, the Grants, Harris's, Rondos, Kuzmas even, are all out of play, and even Porter. So now you're talking, you got to go lower. So is it Monte Morris? Can he have back-to-back good game like that? I don't know. Caruso's fair price, but now we got to worry about that injury. And then you got the hold your nose, Dwight Howard, KCP, Torrey Craig trio. So I think, unfortunately, two of your five guys are going to be undesirables here. That's my new term when we're building these out.
If they knew that was the category we were putting them in, they would cringe.
I hope they're not listening. Somebody's in the bubble listening to this, and they're going to say, hey, and I'm going to have, one of these guys trying to chase me down.
That's a rough category to be in, but I agree. On FanDuel, I think there's two basic builds. You get three of the studs up top in the MVP and the pro spots, and then you have two guys for your undesirables, two out of a group of 5 or 6 that you're choosing from. It's either that, or if you only get two studs up at the top, then you can look at two of those mid-tier guys like Grant, Rondo, Porter. It's almost like it's one or the other. And if you're going to play Rondo, then you're probably going to play somebody like Grant or Porter Jr. And if you're not going to play those guys, then you're going to go back to the undesirables. It's one or the other.
It's exactly what it is. So, I'll tell you what, join DfsCoachTalk.com, and you can play this with us since we've broken it down for you. Yeah. But you don't have to just play this. You can jump onto our Red Hot MLB card tomorrow, where you have a plethora of games, double-digit number of games.
That's right. Not
all
just
these
one game.
Choices. It's so nice.
Games. All kinds of
players.
You
got all these options. It's a beautiful thing. So you can and then football, same thing. There's a million games out there. You guys will be doing the big two big podcasts tomorrow. One being for the whole, all the games for the entire week. So yeah, that's a whole different scenario. But you can have all of those options if you join us. And we have a fall special right now, I think, Andrew, don't we?
We do, and that's the thing. Is the bad news is that this slate for NBA is tough, but the good news is that we're going to grind out the lineup, try to build a winner, because everybody in this field is dealing with the same thing. So we're going to grind and come up with the best approach. for NBA. But if you join here on Thursday, you also get the baseball lineups that Coach is talking about and the football lineups. And we've been absolutely crushing the showdowns in NFL. So if you jump in on Thursday, you're going to get the FanDuel cash lineup and GPP lineup for all the sports, and the DraftKings coaches clipboard for all the sports, and our Yahoo full lineups. So that's what makes us different, is we can give out those lineups. And then with the fall special, you get all of this stuff for the rest of the calendar year for only $199. So you get a nice discount on our monthly price, and it's just an incredible time here to join DFS Coach Talk. We've had a great week, a bunch of new members coming in, and we'd love for you to join us as well.
100%, absolutely. Wanted to remind too, if you're wanting to get into the process and get into a rhythm of how we're doing this, check out the podcast either super late or in the morning. Follow us on Twitter throughout the day. We're all at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and Shane is at DET Sports Shane. Also, again, if you're watching this on YouTube, the big ask for every podcast is please take a second to hit the thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and click the little alert button that lets you know when our new podcasts are posted. That really helps us out. Also, you can catch us on Instagram, DFS_Coach Talk, and our website is DfsCoachTalk.com. You can also take advantage of that betus.com.pa right through their website or through our website as well with 125% match. Also, what else? One other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, yes, if you're listening to us just on our audio side, we have a lot of Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, you name it, people listening in. We do have a monthly contest for anybody that puts a review up there and gives us a 5-star on iTunes or Spotify. That's all you have to do is do that to qualify, and you get a 1-month membership if we choose your name out of the randomizer, and that's in 1 week from today. So take advantage of that as well. Also, our charity of choice here, mambon3.org. That's MAMBAONTHREE.org. It is our charity of choice here at Coach Talk. All right, final words for this interesting basketball conundrum that we're in here.
Yeah, so thanks for grinding through this with us, and just hit on that last point again. Everybody's facing this difficult slate, difficult pricing. We are going to grind it and continue on our winning ways. So hope you'll join us for that, and also make sure to tune in to the football podcasts here on Thursday.
That's right. Ladies, get ready. Shane's going to make an appearance tomorrow.
He's coming back.
He is. The other thing I want to mention too, the best thing you can do as far as the consistency of building a bankroll is jumping in our Discord, because not only do we have an extremely knowledgeable group of members, but we're meticulous. I am, if you get to know me, I'm an extremely detail-oriented perfectionist that just a little OCD, to be honest with you. But every morning, step by step, when we're going on there, what we're doing, when we're going to post, when the lock is. I mean, I will really walk you through to make it as convenient as possible. And then we're on there throughout the day. Every question that comes in Discord. And, if you're not a member and you want to put questions through YouTube, it's been wonderful. We've had a ton of those lately, and we'll certainly respond to those as well. So feel free to hit us up on YouTube, hit us up on Twitter, and if you're in Discord with us, I mean, we can really go through things. Every Friday, we do one-on-one sessions. We schedule a time, Andrew and I do, with members that want to go over those strategies, how we're building lineups, how we feel about stuff, and that's just all part of our membership, because we're really dedicated to long-term success here. We're not try to hit and then, leak it all away over a period of time. We want to see a sustained and make money at this long term. And it can be done. I mean, I've done it for 5.5 years, and I'm proud of that. I don't brag about it because, you let your lineups do the talking. But, when you can consistently do that, it's just a matter of having a system, being disciplined with it, and just following it throughout. And that's what we're doing here. And our members are loving it, and we'd love to have you join us. So that is it, my friend. I know it's been a long day, and you've got to get ready for football tomorrow. So I'm excited to hear that. You guys helped me win some money at that this past weekend. And so that's about it. I guess I went on and on. Any final word as we go?
No, that's it. Thanks for all your support.
Absolutely. Sounds terrific. We will definitely be back tomorrow. Tune in to both our basketball and football podcasts. And like I say, click that alarm button so you don't miss when they're up. We appreciate you, and we're going to get after it tomorrow. And even though it's tough, we're going to find a way to crush it in NBA DFS.